News!
I'm telling you, this was something that Top Rank was doing, like, kind of under wraps. Like, they weren't letting me know. I know my manager was working with them on finding a big fight, whether it was her or Sandy, whether it was Sandy or Jonas, or something. Even Chantel, we've been discussing. So I knew those were all in the works, but Top Rank sort of just brought this to us, and it was kind of shocking because, again, she originally turned down the offer, and then to go from that to like such a great spot on the card. Now we did get lucky because Teofimo Lopez was going to be the main event on this card, and whatever happened with that, they threw me and Sandy in, so that was really cool. Top Rank, they know that they needed to get me a fight, and they've been great to me. They still believe in me. They still want to get that belt back around my waist. So, I'm just happy they could get that done for us.
Michaela Mayer mentioned being surprised that this fight ended up getting made, that it was something that Top Rank was working on behind the scenes, and how they more or less lucked out. I think the reason they were able to get Sandy on board is because things fell through with Teofimo. Remember, Teofimo was supposed to headline the show.
That's what Michaela said.
So when he doesn't, the money that might have went to paying him and his opponent, some of it might go to sweetening the deal for Sandy, to get her to play ball, to get her on board. Maybe that's how it happened. I'm just bouncing ideas around, because there has to be a reason that Sandy decided to take the fight this time, where initially she didn't take it. Michaela said they had already tried, so she was surprised when this was brought to her.
Saw how her face lit up, that Top Rank is still behind her, still pulling strings behind the scenes to make things happen for her. After 2 years on the road, 2 years fighting abroad, I know it doesn't seem like it, but Michaela Mayer hasn't actually boxed on U.S. soil and hasn't boxed on a Top Rank show in 2 years.
2 years, something close to it. Remember, the last time that Michaela Mayer boxed on U.S. soil was the Jennifer Hahn fight in April of 2022. Every fight she's had since has been on UK soil. She hasn't boxed in the US in 2 years.
Been in the UK. Lost 2 decisions in the UK. The Baumgartner fight, the Jonas fight.
She may have started to wonder, what, if any, commitment does Top Rank have left in her career, coming off her latest loss, which really shouldn't be a loss, because I don't think she lost the Jonas fight. I think she was robbed.
She may have started to wonder if Top Rank still cares. Apparently they do. They put this together.
Admittedly, I was starting to wonder too. What, if any, investment does Top Rank have in the career of Michaela Mayer when they are so easily outsourcing her and she's losing these decisions?
Bring her back home. Bring her to America.
Give her some home field advantage to benefit from, like Natasha Jonas benefited from her home field advantage in her hometown of Liverpool.
Michaela can benefit from fighting in her hometown of New York.
She's not from New York. She's from California.
It's not the point. The point is they've got her back fighting on U.S. soil under the Top Rank banner and not the Boxer banner or the Queensbury banner.
She'll be fighting under the Top Rank banner in her next fight. She also mentioned Chantel Cameron in passing, a fight that they were exploring and might still explore. If Michaela Mayer seals the deal with Sandy, and I think she's going to, don't be surprised if we get a Chantel Cameron fight after that.
Don't be surprised if it's in America either.
If Chantel Cameron potentially has to move up in weight and travel for her next world title opportunity. She's still at 140 pounds. She's still there where Katie Taylor still reigns as that division's undisputed champion. But at this moment, Chantel doesn't have access to that fight, that fighter, and those belts. She might get access to Michaela.
The network relationship exists between Queensbury and Top Rank, Frank Warren and Bob Arum.
It can happen. If Michaela Mayer seals the deal and beats Sandy Ryan, becomes WBO welterweight champion, it's entirely possible she defends the title right after that against Chantel Cameron. I know of no rematch clause that would secure a second fight between Michaela and Sandy. So Sandy's really rolling a dice here.
She's a gambler.
But I don't think it's going to work out for her. I think she's going to lose. I think Michaela Mayer is going to move and punch, use those long levers to catch Sandy Ryan coming in as she tries to close the distance.
I don't think she can hurt Sandy or knock her out, but I do think she can win a points decision.
I think she can out-hustle her and outmaneuver her. I think Michaela's a little lighter on her feet than Sandy is, and she she's going to use that to her advantage. Use the ring, move around.
And it does help to have a bit of home field advantage as well, not being the away fighter for a change.
Michaela Mayer on points is the pick. In men's heavyweight news, Alexander Usyk on the Fury rematch. It won't be easier than the first fight. There's no doubt that the first bout between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk was the hardest fight of each man's life, while Usyk walked out of the ring that Saudi Arabian night back in May as the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, the first in ages. After besting Fury, he had to earn that title the hard way. As for Fury, the towering Englishman may not have agreed with the judge's decision that evening, what losing fighter does after suffering his first loss. There was no argument that even if he had walked out of the ring the winner against Usyk, Fury would have still fought the toughest battle of his life.
I expect Fury to start earlier in the rematch.
Take things seriously from the beginning, from the get-go, because in the opening stanza of their initial meeting, Fury was horsing around and playing to the crowd, almost as if he was trying to convince them that he was not afraid of the man opposite the ring. And he gave up rounds doing that.
To me, he did.
He didn't do anything in the initial goings of the match to win those first few rounds. He was just moving around, playing to the crowd, making stupid faces. Now, with a rematch coming in December, fans and analysts are eager for the two men to get it on again in Saudi. Part of what makes the rematch so enticing, of course, is the fact that the first fight was so close. While Usyk came close to putting Fury away, he wasn't able to, as Fury once again showed the kind of blood and guts that would have made George Patton proud. What's more, Fury showed just how effective his own punching could be, as he used it to keep his man at bay for large spells of the fight.
That's what I told you he would do.
I told you, he wasn't going to give Usyk the bum's rush like he gave Wilder the bum's rush. Usyk has much better feet and coordination than Deontay Wilder. You come forward on him, you're going to walk into something. No, he would use his height and his length to keep him at bay, to try and keep the smaller man at arm's length. Little wonder, then, that Usyk isn't walking into the rematch thinking it will be an easy night's work. No, it won't be easier. The undefeated champion said to Mail Sport Boxing via Seconds Out, I think it will be even more difficult. When a fighter is at the level that Usyk is, there's an understanding that every opponent will be giving it his all in order to become the boss of the block. Look, Usyk says, I always set myself up for a hard fight. Never an easy one. I'm expecting the cosmos that will crush me, so only my eyes will see what is happening. I get pumped for such things. When it's all said and done, no one will likely ever accuse Usyk of being anything less than a completely disciplined athlete throughout his career. Indeed, he'll likely go down as an athlete who embraced the biggest and most formidable challenges. I don't think that it will be easier for me, he says of the Fury rematch, but I don't think it needs to be easier. Diamonds cannot be found in easy because they are not there. You cannot succeed without hard work. Everything that is given easily does not grow.
I don't think it'll be easier either. I think Fury will try to get off to an earlier start. No more horsing around.
Try to pile on the damage earlier on in the fight so that he can try to take his man out as the fight progresses. That's what I think he's going to try to do.
I think he knows he can hurt Usyk.
The caveat is, the sooner you start stepping into your punches to try to do damage, that's the sooner you'll walk into something like you did in, what was it, the 8th or 9th round?
Remember that Fury was hanging back for most of that fight, and he was having some success. As he started to have success, he started stepping into his punches, and that's when he got caught.
Yeah, we know that Fury can hurt Usyk, but we also know that Usyk can hurt Fury, and now we know that Usyk can beat him.
Will he do it again?
Anthony Joshua thinks he can. Anthony Joshua thinks Alexander Usyk has what it takes to best Tyson Fury again in their rematch. Anthony's been a unified world heavyweight champion and remains one of the biggest names in the fight game. In other words, when Anthony Joshua talks, people listen. This is especially true when it comes to Tyson Fury and undisputed heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk. Joshua has lost to Usyk twice. After all, plus a potential fight between he and Fury has been talked about forever. Now that Usyk and Fury are fighting again in December, after Usyk won their first fight by split decision, Joshua has thoughts. I think it's going to be a tough fight early on, Joshua said on Queensberry Promotions. And then I feel like Usyk will edge it again. Although he's been beaten twice by Usyk, Joshua has respect for his former foe. He's a class operator, Joshua said of Usyk. And I feel like Usyk's one of the best out there. That's why I think he'll win. There's no denying that Usyk is, in fact, an extraordinary fighter. Joshua is no slouch, and the Ukrainian was able to dominate him twice. And of course, there was Usyk's first fight against Fury, which saw Usyk win via a split decision. As for Joshua himself, he's got a battle coming up with Daniel Dubois.
He's got to focus on that.
While we focus on this, rematches are often won by the fighter who can change, the fighter who can make the most adjustments. In the case of Fury and Usyk, they're both capable of making adjustments. They're both cerebral in their own way. So what exactly determines the outcome of a rematch?
If they can both change.
You may find that the outcome of the rematch may be decided by a hair, not by very much. As they're both quality operators, they both are, but I view Usyk as being more disciplined. And that strength of character from one fight to the next.
Not slamming down beers and face planting outside the pub.
Not treating your nose in the bathroom of somebody's nightclub like Tyson Fury does.
So maybe what decides the outcome of the fight has already been decided based on the fighters and how they take care of themselves. Or how they don't.
In the case of Tyson Fury, you could argue that he's talented, that he's plenty talented, but what do they say about talent? Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
So tack on Usyk's talent, because he's plenty talented too.
Two talented athletes, one a lot more disciplined than the other, without the egocentricities,
Narcissism.
the hyperbole, and the crushing realization that maybe you're not as good as you thought you were.
You've been humbled.
What Fury endured in that 8th or 9th round, whichever one it was, I've seen fights stopped for a lot less than what he was suffering at the hands of Alexander Usyk. I think Mark Nelson threw him a lifeline by not stopping that fight because he could have.
Just stumbling around, getting hit in the face.
And now what Tyson Fury is talking about is retirement. He says that boxing is more addictive than any drug.
Tyson Fury knows a lot about drugs. He tested positive for one.
Tested positive for 2, not just nandrolone, not just an anabolic steroid, but cocaine.
Cocaina!
When Tyson Fury isn't sniffing cocaine, when Tyson Fury isn't taunting it or tempting it or indeed tweeting about it at regular intervals throughout the year, he happens to be surprisingly coherent and insightful on the subject of retirement. For years, Fury has mentioned retirement as a way to grab attention or maintain relevance, but it is only when he sits down and talks about it now, as a man of 36, 1 year younger than Usyk, that his words carry any sort of weight or resonance. He is, after all, coming off his first professional loss, a decision defeat to Alexander Usyk in May, and will therefore know that he is just 1 or 2 more away from perhaps being forced to retire against his will.
So we've seen Tyson Fury in at least 2 or 3 rematch situations.
Though none of them were really ever straight away. When he fought John McDermott the first time, he fought 2 other guys in between the first fight and the second fight. With Derek Chisora, it was more or less the same thing. He fights Derek, then he fights 7 other guys.
7.
Then he fights Derek for the second time.
With Wilder, it was the same thing. He fought him the first time, then he fought Tom Schwartz, then he fought Otto Wallin, and then he fought Wilder for the second time.
No longer then is the prospect of retirement a promotional tool or toy which he can play and use to distract from other issues. Instead, as he approaches his mid-30s, retirement is for Tyson Fury now something he can see, smell, and taste. I've been in love with boxing for such a long time, from being a little boy, and I'm probably at the end of my career in the next few years, he told Devsani of Queensbury Boxing. It's been a love-hate relationship. It's been toxic at times. When it's good, it's very good, and when it's bad, it's very toxic. So I'm in that relationship, and I just don't abandon things. I try and make things work, and that's where we're at the minute. We've been in this romantic relationship since I can remember, since I was a child, and now I am a fully grown adult with a family of my own. It's like, do I abandon it, or do I not? I wanted to walk away a lot of times, but it always drags me back. Fury, 34-1, with 24 knockouts, should take comfort from the fact he is not alone in this fight. Many boxers, in fact, have tried escaping the sport's clutches, only to be tempted back, either because they didn't make enough money during their heyday, they have wasted all the money they did make, or they cannot bear the silence that greets them when the phone stops ringing and people no longer drop everything to be at their beck and call. For most, it is simply the boredom that gets to them. It is the feeling of having no routine, no purpose, and no sense of identity without boxing. It is the feeling of being just as insignificant now as any other person walking the street, some of whom once paid money to watch you perform. It's like a massive drug and an addiction, said Fury. I know it's an addiction, and I'm an addictive person.
To make it in the sport of boxing, you sort of need to be a creature of habit, good habits that carry you to the top. But once your career is over, those good habits, those habits over time become the biggest part of your day, the biggest part of your life. And if you enter a phase in your life where you no longer need those habits, you just don't know what to do with yourself. Being idle.
Not training and working towards something. A big fight one day, a big fight date.
You don't know what to do with yourself.
It's not encouraging for Tyson Fury ahead of this rematch that he's already thinking about retirement. Don't forget, he's 36 years old. He's actually a year younger than Alexander Usyk.
One loss and you're ready to pack it up?
You're ready to pack it in? I know it's an addiction, and I'm an addictive person. Boxing is an addiction. It's not my best friend. It abuses me. When I come in this gym, it abuses my body, my mind, my soul. But afterwards, I feel like it takes me to ecstasy. The rush is unbelievable. It gives me the biggest highs ever, but it also gives me the biggest lows as well. Boxing is more addictive than any drug ever. You can't let it go. One day, of course, he will have to. He will have to let go of boxing, and he will, in the process, perhaps then realize why retirement, the very idea of it, is not something that should ever be trivialized or used for anything other than what it is supposed to represent.
This is what's on his mind ahead of the rematch, folks.
This is what he's thinking about. That if he loses to Alexander Usyk, if he loses for the second time, he might pack it in. Now, I remember when Anthony Joshua lost, when he suffered that crushing defeat to Andy Ruiz, there were other people calling for his retirement. Yeah, after one loss, just one loss, there were people telling him he's never going to be the same and he should pack it in. Where would he be now if he had listened to those people?
After he lost to Andy Ruiz, after he lost to Usyk the first time, then the second time, where would he be now if he had that kind of a mindset, the kind that Fury has? Because Fury's the one thinking about retiring.
It's not me bouncing ideas around and connecting the dots. He's the one thinking about it. He's the one talking about it. This is what's on his mind ahead of this rematch.
And even though we've seen Tyson Fury in rematch situations, very few of them were straight away.
He didn't have a rematch with John McDermott straight away. He didn't have a rematch with Derek Chisora straight away. And even with Wilder, between the first fight and the second fight, he didn't have a rematch straight away.
This rematch is.
You don't have the luxury of time in between fights to let your wounds mend.
Heal.
The way he did before. No, not this time. You lost to him in May. You may lose to him again in December.